Here in Connecticut, we've tried to show the shipping out of prisoners and what it does to them in places like we call the SHU, okay, where you're in lockup and you can't move and you don't get anything, and it's really torturous to be to be in there, okay.
But you use the phone once a month, maybe.
Right. So to do any kind of legal work or to try to do any kind of an appeal is almost impossible. You're very fortunate, and I guess you're very fortunate you got to where you did with your case after
Well,
so
the thing
many
was,
years.
the first time they shipped me out, I didn't have a chance. They sent me to Marion, which was Alcatraz Junior, and it came out, it was right in one of the things I was pressing. The reason they sent me there, Marion is a 6. It was the only level 6 that went to 6. It's the highest level. I was only a 4. At the most they could get me, if the worst things they could say about me, I was only a 4. And I nagged them, why am I here? Why? And finally it came out, Massachusetts specifically requested, they shipped 22 of us out. That was another one of their great lies in the paper. They said we were going to take over the prison, we're going to kill 20 people,
right,
we're going to kill the warden, we're going to kill him. Didn't even give me a D report. I didn't even get a disciplinary report for it. This is the same time period I got a disciplinary report one time for dropping a piece of paper on the floor. But I'm going to kill the warden and all that. No, I didn't even get a disciplinary report, but they used that to ship me to Marion. That's the first time I discovered new evidence. And the second time, because I had been ordered back by the courts, when they went to ship me out, I fought them in court on it. And I made the point, they're doing it to stall my appeal. I've come up with more new evidence, here's more new evidence, and they said, oh, no, that's not why we're doing it. They agreed. They sent an entire copy of all of the Massachusetts law books out to Leavenworth with me, just to get me out of the state, just to keep me away, because they kept me out there for 7 years, and it stalled the appeal for another 7 years by keeping me out there. But yes, I had the legal work, and I get into it, and I was fortunate enough to have a good lawyer at the time. And but so many people, I mean, who else have they shipped law books out with? But for them to do that tells you how bad they wanted me out of state. They just, I tell you, I was thinking of something. You're talking about the point you were making about, I made it myself, I find that one of the most common arguments for the death penalty is that certain crimes are so atrocious that executing the criminal will be the only reasonable punishment, and that killing convicted murderers would equate to justice. And I understand that position. Some crimes are so horrific that you instinctively want revenge. But in the end, it comes down to this. No matter how much you believe that some people should be executed, you have to view the death penalty in its realistic perspective. Our alleged justice system is so infested with people whose priority isn't justice, it's just to enhance for their own good. What can I do? If I'm a politician, can I, how can you support a system that's manipulated by people who will go to any lengths to do that? You have the epitome of law enforcement. J. Edgar Hoover knew that his good friend agent was framing somebody.
Well, that's the only way they could get to another group. And this is the problem that's going on. Not only, that's what the things that are going on in our system that are so horrific. I mean, I can understand the average straight individual that didn't get into the kind of situations you and I that got into when we were young. And I can understand that when we talk, we come across as very rough individuals and everything else like that. And maybe the concern is that we're not going to change and we're career criminals for what we did, and which allows probably people who just have a job to justify their actions and what they're doing because they believe I really believe they think they're saving the community. I really believe that the police that manipulated and got hooked with Bolger and those guys, they wanted to do one group against the other, and it was the only means that they had. And I'm sure that they thought they were doing the right thing. Well, in the meantime, how many people got killed? They became killers. We have a movie about outsourcing and torturing and what happens. And what happens to what happens to the person that's being tortured. But for some reason, our society doesn't realize what's happening to the person.
That's because the media, all the media prints and broadcast is what Big Brother tells them. And that's the bottom line.
Well, I agree with that.
All right, I'll tell you sort of a classic story.
Go ahead.
We talked about Peter Lamoni and them.
Yes.
To me, to this day, they would not have tipped their case if it wasn't for Dan Ray. Dan Ray was an investigative reporter.
That's right.
But he was different. He sort of still believed in Edward Murrow. He'd get into it, he knew they were bum beefed, and he wouldn't let go, and he wouldn't let go, and he wouldn't let go. And, I mean, the rest of the media was talking bad about him. Is he crazy? What's wrong with him? And after years of doing it, all of a sudden, it came out, he's right. But here's the other side of it now. So many people say, well, see, justice prevailed, they got out. You know, well, you know what? The same Fed that framed them framed another guy. His name is Georgie McLaughlin, evil Irish guy from Charlestown, part of the evil Irish War. Well, it turns out that the same Fed, Rico, I have that here too. That's what I was just thinking about.
Georgie's still in.
Oh, Georgie has 45 years in.
45 years
Okay.
in, 45
He's
years
in his 80s.
He's in his 80s. He's, you know, that's, yeah, right.
It came out at the time. Well, at the time they had nothing of a case against him. It was a hearsay case against him. They were at a party over in Roxbury, and some guy got thrown out because he was bothering girls or something. It had nothing to do with Georgie. Then he came back, and he got dead outside. And this was right in the middle of all the troubles, the Irish troubles in Charlestown, and McLaughlin names are all over the papers. And it turns out that they start looking for him immediately, and they bust him for it. And they come up. Basically, they had somebody that said, I heard such and such a girl say that he did it. That was their case. She didn't even say it, you know. But years later, a guy in his 70s named Tony Chody.
Another one of my partners.
Well, Tony came forward. He came to me first. That's how I happened to know the story. And we were in Norfolk, and he said, I want to tell you a story. So what's up? He said, years ago, I was with Joe Barboza and another guy, and we were in Alfaris's office. And Joe Barboza was the stool pigeon that framed Peter Lamoni, Joe Savati, that whole crew. He said, we were in there talking. He said, you know, Alfaris was Georgie McLaughlin's lawyer, too. He said, in the middle of the conversation, Barboza said, hey, Al, how's Georgie's case looking? Faris said, it looks pretty good. And Barboza said, that's too bad, Al, because either he gets the death penalty or you do. I said to Jody, did you say anything? He said, when we got outside, I asked, what are you doing? He said, Stevie, they told me to shut up. He said, I was a kid. I just got out of Concord. He said, what am I going to do? He said, but now, you know, so okay. He went to Georgie, told him about it. They filed, they just brushed the thing off. All right, that's in the 70s. Fast forward to 2003. In front of Congress, so this isn't my opinion, this is all on record. Frankie Salemi, who was the partner of one of Rico's other stool pigeons, Stevie Fleming, is testifying. And he said just before Georgie's case, Rico comes in and says to Stevie Fleming, now mind you, that's their territory, Roxbury, where the party was,
Right.
said, you know, there's some
Rico,
girls.
you're going to make sure that our audience knows Rico is a federal
This is a federal agent.
federal
This is the
agent
federal
working
agent
for the
that,
FBI.
for the FBI.
Right.
I mean,
That's-
but it's already on paper that he framed all them. He
Right.
went in and he told Stevie Fleming, his stool pigeon, that it would be nice if somebody, there were some girls who are going to testify, it wasn't Georgie that did it, it'd be nice if somebody would go convince them not to testify.